Well, hello, my friends. You know me, I'm Rachel Archelaus. Thanks for being here. This is Laura Ghedotte. She works in my Intuitive Art Academy as our head teacher, homework checker, practice hour leader. She's going to interview me today on what it was like to grow up in a haunted house. So if you're into that, stick around. If you have any more questions that we don't go over, put them below and maybe we'll do a part two. Laura, first of all, thank you for doing this. I love your shirt, and we should introduce Bob as well. Bob's wearing a nice jaunty necklace and a hat.
Yes, Bob was really excited about joining our conversation, your interview today. He was like up all night just cheering and chattering away with excitement. And here we are, Rachel. We have like a zillion $1 million questions for you. And we'll start off with, when did you first recognize, or even, I don't even know how you even knew that you were able to communicate to the spirit world, or there's another realm there? And as a child, I mean, what do you do with that?
I don't remember like the first things I ever saw necessarily because I think it was just like you don't remember the first stranger you saw, like it was so normal to me. But I do remember the first time I was frightened by it. I was at my friend's house sleeping over, and this would happen every time I slept over. We would be on the floor in our little sleeping bags, and these angels would come down from the corners of the room. They would fly like they would just descend like that
Wow.
and kiss us on our foreheads. And I was absolutely terrified. I would do that thing where I would like pretend to be sleeping so that nobody would know or they wouldn't see that I was awake and
Yeah.
maybe try to talk to me or something. Like I was just absolutely terrified. So, and I say they're angels because that's what I remember thinking they were. Like I remember they had wings on the back of them. They weren't open. They were just kind of like this, like with the wings closed. But I don't really know what they were, you know what I mean? Like that's just what my child brain interpreted it as. And that's when I had like a realization of, oh, this, not everyone's seeing this. And I don't even remember if I told my parents. So I I'm absolutely sure I was seeing all these things my whole life because I just continued to see more and more. And I would, I had like an invisible older brother. My mom said that I used to go out back and like talk to all of the bugs on the fence. And like,
Oh,
I know now that I was actually talking to beings. So, but I didn't realize that it was anything other than normal. So it's hard to remember all the specifics.
wow. That is really incredible. What was the support like in your family? Did they just pass it off with, oh, it's just Rachel in her, imagination? Or in your family, were there other individuals that were intuitive, that you would say, and connected in that way?
We started using the word psychic for me after my grandfather died. I was like 11 or 12. I think I was in seventh grade. And because at that point my parents realized I was talking to an actual member of the family, and they could understand what was happening with me, they used the word psychic, but it gave us a context, like something to talk about. And then I realized through the years, even later on, that my mom was really intuitive, my grandmother was really intuitive, and then my other grandmother, my dad's mom, was actually like really psychic and had all of these experiences early on of like knowing when everyone would die and why they would die. And it freaked her out more than anything else. So she didn't really develop it. She just
Yeah.
had that ability naturally. And so she never talked about it. When I learned that she had that ability, I was excited. And I was like, oh, let's finally someone I can talk to and relate to. But she wanted nothing to do with it. So it was actually like really sad. Like I thought I'd found some commonality, but really she didn't want to talk about it. So that was kind of sad.
Did you have anybody that you were able to talk to about it? You
Not
felt
until high school. I mean, I talked to my parents about it a little bit, but they didn't understand. And then when I was in high school, I met a couple people like sophomore year who were considering themselves psychic, could see things and talk to beings. And then I met my my husband, and we had very similar situations. We saw similar beings and sometimes the same ones, and we had a lot in common around that. So, um, we met when I was a freshman, but we didn't really get into talking about more of it until a little bit later on. And so that was nice to have those people.
Yeah, that must have felt like so good and like so validating for you, oh my gosh, there are other people that are like kind of experiencing what I am, and I can really feel free to, have a conversation with them and to open up, and they really get me.
And at that time, I really, really needed it because it went from growing up psychic, seeing things, talking to beings, really good things. I mean, the only scary thing was the angel thing, and that was like,
Oh,
not a really big deal. It's
oh
like,
my,
bringing a kid to a museum and they're scared of the dinosaur. You know what I mean? Like, it's not
yeah.
the biggest deal. But when I moved and I went to that high school, that's when I moved into the haunted house, and I totally like lost it. Like, all of this negativity was present, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know what to do. It was like I desperately needed some help and some people. So I really needed those people that I found.
Oh my gosh, thank goodness that you found them, because when you're all alone in the middle of something or in your own world, you need someone to be able to talk to that really gets you and understands you, that can really help you through it. So let's talk a little bit about your paranormal experiences that you had. I mean, what happened?
So it kind of happened slowly, like moving into that house. First of all, I was in a terrible mood because it was on my 14th birthday that we moved. I had been around my friends my entire life, living in the same house. Then I moved for a new high school, and I was just kind of pissed, like I was in a pretty terrible mood. And so we move in, and it's not like I saw everything right away. I felt it though. Like, I felt nauseous going into certain parts of the house. I felt uneasy. And basically, I just tried to make my room a fortress. Like, I put up, how kids decorate and they like plaster everything over the walls, and
Yeah.
I had candles and dried flowers and books. And I just kind of like tried to make my own fortress, even though I didn't exactly know why yet. I realized as well that I was saying hi to things that I couldn't see. Like I said,
Oh,
I didn't see everything right away. And so I noticed that I felt a being in my doorway of my bedroom when the door was a little bit open. And I would say hi to it, but I couldn't see it. So it's not like I really knew something was there, but it was so strange that I would say hi. And then the same thing in the bathroom and a couple other places of the house. Like, I instinctively knew something was there and I was
yeah.
responding to it, but it wasn't totally conscious yet. And so my awareness of the house just developed like over a couple weeks. It just slowly became more evident that there was a lot going on, like a lot.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. So tell us more about that lot that was going on.
I started noticing that there were different kinds of ghosts or beings all over the house. So there were like standard places that they would be, and then there were also really active ones that were in motion. It was a strange experience. In the living room where there was a fireplace, there were, did you remember the show Casper, the Friendly Ghost? How it was
Yeah,
like, looked like a little plastic bag in the wind, you know what I mean? Like the
yeah.
little white thing with the tail. I had, I don't know, dozens of those going through the fireplace and then out into the living room and like up through the house and like just keeping in a circle, dozens of them all the time. They never stopped.
Oh my gosh.
I'd never seen anything like that before. So as I started to see everything, I was noticing like, oh my gosh, this is really different. You know, the beings in the doorways and on the bathroom. And then when I was in the kitchen washing dishes one night, I saw this movement of, it was like a picture of my mom taking a step and sneezing. And she was wearing her favorite sweater. Like I could see her outfit and everything. And it was just the strange, I call it an imprint now.
Yeah, an imprint.
Yeah, all these really strange things were happening. On top of that, my dad was starting to have experiences too. Now, he didn't believe me up until the point that he started having experiences because he was not into this. He was a Catholic, you know, like this isn't real. He had a tolerance for my like psychicness in my regular house just because it was so benign. He wasn't sure if I was like losing my mind or not as I was explaining all these things to my parents. But one night he was watching TV and he thought that my sister was awake. And so he was like, Jen, go to bed, you know. And he kept seeing what he thought was her in the living room. And so he got up from the den, which was like right on the other side of the living room. And he came out and he thought he saw her rounding the corner into the kitchen because you could make a loop there.
Yeah.
He starts chasing her. So he is chasing what he thinks is my sister around the house for minutes, yelling at her. And then finally, he goes all the way down the hallway to her room and she's fast asleep. Like, fast asleep. And so he now is like totally freaked out. So
Oh
there's
my.
all these things happening, the Casper ghosts, all the beings in the doorways and the bathroom and the imprints, and like it all feels very negative and very heavy. And I haven't even mentioned the craziest part yet, which is something that I have found out is very universal. There was someone watching me from my window. So I was being watched and followed. Whenever I'd leave the house, this being would follow me. I was at my friend's house in Milford one day where I used to live, and he saw the being out the window, and he'd never seen anything else before. But he's like, "Oh my God, what is that?"
He
So,
saw it being out the window and he
yeah,
never saw anything before.
no. And if you look it up, so this guy who was like a shadow man with a top hat, this is a very universal thing. There's even a documentary about this being right now, which I have not watched. But like there's blogs about it and now a documentary about it. So I haven't gone into like what this is and what this means because I frankly don't want to relive it that closely. But yeah, it's like what but yeah, a lot of people have experienced that particular being and being followed by it, which is so strange to me.
That, yeah, so this universal shadow figurine man wearing a hat following people is like this universal spirit energy that lots of people are experiencing.
Yeah.
Hmm. That's really interesting. You know what? We're going to have to watch that documentary and then maybe, if you feel like it, having a conversation.
Only if you come over and cuddle me while we do it.
Okay, yeah, yeah. What do you think, Bob? Bob just said he's more than welcome to. Yeah, okay. Bob said that he'll come over and he'll watch it with you.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Bob.
He wants to know if you'll give him a high five on that.
Of course. Yep.
Okay. Cool, Bob. Oh my gosh, thinking about all those experiences, it must have been really overwhelming, not only for you, for your family who never saw anything before and now are experiencing things that they've never experienced before. So, what was the next step? What did you guys do? What was the next step?
Well, the next step came from my grandmother, which was to call the Warrens. I don't know if y'all are familiar with them, but they are really, or were, they're both passed on now, the most famous ghost hunters, I think, ever. They toured around with artifacts, and there's movies based on their cases, The Conjuring, a whole bunch of them. They're all terrifying. I've never seen any of them because they totally hit too close to home. So what happened was my parents really wanted to like make sure that I was sane, and I went over to their house and they tested me with my parents there to see if I was really clairvoyant, clairaudient, all the things. And so they asked me to see their aura, they asked me to talk to their spirit guide, and so I was able to do all of that successfully. They even tried to trick me, so I passed their even tricking test. My parents felt, I think, a lot better about it, but they still weren't convinced that. I mean, my dad wasn't convinced that everything was on the case. So we were still working on my dad, but at least I felt like, oh my God, I'm not going crazy, even though I didn't think I was. My mom was much more confident about, what was going on. And then they came over to our house, and I walked through the house with Lorraine, and in every single spot where I said there was something to my parents, Lorraine notified my parents that there was something there. So I never told Lorraine where I felt things. Lorraine went through the house. I was just walking with her, and she just verified that everywhere I said there was something, there was. So like now my parents could say, okay, there's like verification that Rachel's picking up on actual things. And that really helped a lot. But what they did next didn't help, because they said we should have an exorcism of the house. And they arranged it with a local priest to have this done. And it was this whole big thing. We had to like open up every drawer and a box and make sure like there was, airflow and energy flow through all the closets and everything.
Wow.
And the priest came and did his thing. We were away for the day. But it just made everything worse. Like it just totally made everything worse. It didn't make anything better. So
It works.
yeah.
Wow. And so if the Warrens didn't do it and a priest doing an exorcism was not beneficial, what did you do? What was the
Yeah.
next step? I keep asking, what's the next step? But oh my gosh, this is like an unbelievable experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was just hanging on by a thread. Like it wasn't a fun time for me. I didn't mention, because I don't even remember when this happened, but my parents did bring me to a psychiatrist who recommended that I be put away in a facility for observation. So I had a lot of pressure, you know what I mean?
Oh
Uh,
my
and
gosh.
starting a new school, and my parents were fighting, and it was just like a lot going on. But I slept in my car a lot. I had to move out for a summer. I lived with my grandparents for a while when I wasn't in school. I missed a lot of school. I actually ended up dropping out of high school in my junior year, because I was just so open and overwhelmed. I couldn't go to public places. I couldn't go to restaurants anymore or the mall. I was just like completely psychically open, and I had no idea how to fix it. I was trying, but it was just like my environment was so like at 100. I couldn't get any relief from it. And like I would be driving down the road with my friends, and just like knowing what all the people in all the cars next to us were thinking and talking about. I saw I actually saw someone die once. I saw their spirit ascend. Like I was just so open that I couldn't deal with any of it. And so it was very, very, very difficult. I actually got into a clinical depression before I even dropped out of high school. Like I wasn't in a good place. There weren't a lot of people to reach out to at the time. This was 25 years ago. So the word intuition, the word psychic, like there were like three books on being psychic when, at that time, like Llewellyn was still the big publisher. Hay House didn't exist yet. So it was just really different, not a lot of resources.
Oh my gosh, just hearing everything that you just shared with us is overwhelming. And not knowing where you can go for help, or who can I go to that can help me understand these experiences, these feelings that I had, all these experiences that I had. How can they help me manage it and be able to move forward in what kind of ways? So how were you able to, again, move forward? Oh my gosh, you're like so resilient. You're like so amazing. And tell us.
It just took a really, really long time. Like, I don't want to downplay how hard it was because it was really, really, really hard. I was prescribed Prozac in high school and I took it for a little while and I really didn't like it. I didn't like how I felt on it. I felt like a balloon floating around. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone, but I just felt terrible. And so I stopped taking it. Didn't tell my parents though, because they really thought that that was like the way to make me better. And I ended up marrying that person that I met in high school. We kind of played grown up for a while and it didn't really work out. And I'm saying that because I married someone when I was very, very depressed. That person was meeting me where I was at. They were also not in a really great place. And so we didn't really help each other get better. I learned a lesson of like, don't make huge life decisions when you're not feeling great. At the
Yeah.
time, I didn't really realize like how that would play out, but it took a long time. After I left that relationship, I was faster to feel more confident and better, but I really felt like from all of that experience in high school, the house, my parents got divorced, which was also really traumatic for me at the time. Marrying someone that wasn't very healthy, like my whole personality died. Like it was like a hard reset. I was like such a fun loving, happy, confident person growing up. And then I was just there's no human being here. Like my mom used to call me a zombie. Apparently, I went for like a year without ever smiling. Like, if you can imagine that. But so from that point on, that like hard reset, I mean, I still feel like I'm recovering from it. I still feel like I regain more of myself every year. Well, let me say, I guess around age 30, I started feeling much, 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 much better. But from, let's say, 17 to 30, it was a pretty steady incline. It felt really slow at first, and then it just kept going up. So, I mean, I think for everyone who has childhood trauma of any kind, it takes a while to remember that, like, you deserve to be happy and you deserve to have confidence and you're a wonderful, amazing person. But it can take a while to climb out of that.
Oh my goodness, what a journey for you. Yes. I'm still in awe and mind boggled on how you were able to manage and navigate all these things and then be able to go on the upward, take that upward trajectory and just keep going and then start really understanding and integrating, because then from that point, what happened with you in your relationship with your intuition, or you in your relationship with connecting to the spirit world? How did that shift for you, and how did it shift for you?
I will say that, like in high school, even in the midst of, depression and all of that, I was always using it. So I was always giving my friends readings and my family members and making art for myself. And, I had intuitive art this whole time. So that was nice. I would say it's just always been a fixture of my personality. Even in all of that, it's been there. I think the time I used it the least was probably in my marriage years because I was figuring out how to be a wife and how to be an adult and how to live on my own. And I had like 4 jobs and it was a lot of like learning how to live as a human. I basically had to ignore my intuition at that time because things weren't great with the person that I thought I was like supposed to be with forever. So I write about this in my intuitive art book about the end of that relationship and how I regained my intuition and using it in my daily life. And that's really what brought me out of that depression. Like I realized I was so unhappy that I had to make a change, and the change that I felt would actually bring me back to myself was reintegrating that part of me and using it more. So that's when I started working as a psychic locally. It's also when I started doing my intuitive art again. I don't think I've ever really put that down since, like any of those skills, abilities. I always say I wouldn't trade this for $1 billion. I love having the ability to connect, even just with my intuition, which is something everyone has. All of these skills can be remembered because I feel like we're all born with them. But it's so important to me, so valuable to me that I wouldn't trade it for anything.
I mean, that really is how you live your life for you, and that's what has made it a journey of more ease, more inspired action steps. Following your big aha ideas, and that's incredible. That you had to return back to yourself and tap in to the very source that I might add that caused a lot of havoc in your earlier years. Tap back into that as your strength to help you move forward and then expand even more.
Yeah. So I guess in a nutshell, how did I recover from that? Is I learned how to be happy again with the help of my intuition. For anyone in that situation who feels like they are like seeing the darker side of the unseen, the mystical, the, other kinds of beings, is really you're going to attract where you are vibrationally. I didn't know that then. I know my bad mood didn't help me see good things when I was moving into that house. Yeah, finding happiness, finding centeredness, myself, like all of that helped me to not see those things anymore, not be affected by that. Still doesn't mean I want to go watch those scary movies, but like, I'm not I'm not afraid of that anymore. I haven't been for a really, really, really long time. But I also know that if I put that back in front of my consciousness, like, yeah, I'm a little afraid that I'll get scared, and I don't like being scared.
That's right. Why be scared when you can use your intuition and that connection in a really beautiful and self-empowering way? Well, I love that. So you gave the listeners some really great ways on how they can navigate their energy. So when they do tap into their intuition, that they're tapping in more on a energy that's of a higher vibration, like you said, like happiness and like joy. Is there any other things that you could offer to them as a way of connecting on a higher vibration level to kind of deter attracting negative energies or situations, anything like that?
I mean, so I feel like I came into this life with that planned. I don't think that I just stumbled into that out of nowhere, that negative high school experience that I had. So if you're in a position like that, ask yourself, if you can, all right, why in the heck would I do this to myself? I think for me, even then, I knew it was okay to be depressed. Like when I stopped taking my medication, I was like, I I wanted to like feel sad right now. Like it's okay for me to feel sad. There's reasons for me to feel sad, and it's okay. And I don't think that medication is bad. I don't think it's wrong, but I think sometimes you know yourself more than what people are trying to tell you. So I believe that I orchestrated that so that I could have this experience of being really, really, really down. And so that this path that I'm on now of like joy and ease and love and light and all those things like is really, really authentic to me. Like I really understand what it's like to be here, and I really understand what it's like to be here. And that's the work that I do now. And so what I went through really prepared me for being this person that I am now. So I'm really grateful for it. I wouldn't do anything differently in this lifetime. If you have a traumatic story, you can sort of detach yourself from the victimization of it by realizing, like, I probably planned that. And even if I don't know the exact reason why I planned that, I can say that it made me into the person that I am now and just let it go. Like, I'm not trying to track anybody down from there or like say you could have done better by me. Like everyone did the best that they could. And yeah, like it was probably really hard for the whole family to go through, but it is what it is. Like I'm here right now and everything is great and I'm really grateful. And so for you, just remember you're in the present moment right now. You are responsible for how you feel. So how do you want to feel? How do you want to feel now? You still want to feel like you did then, or do you want to feel differently because you have different tools, different perspective now? So that's what I try to remember. Like I can control my now. That's all that matters.
Thank you. Thank you for that insight, and it will be so helpful to individuals that have been in similar situations like that to understand it more from listening to your experience and now have a tool to be able to help themselves move forward. And for you, you would be a perfect person to work with individuals who have been in that or in that type of experience. You can really help them to fully understand it, to navigate it, and to be able to rise above and then move forward from it.
Yeah, because that's what we got to do, right? Just
That's
keep
what
going, keep going, keep going.
keep going. And just like on your shirt, would you show us your shirt? Rachel and I, we were talking about Rachel's shirt, and it's so cool. On one arm, it says expand, and then the other arm, your mind.
Yeah, I love it. And it's very soft too, which is great.
And it is just such a cool shirt. It's so hypnotic too. It just draws you right into explore and expand your mind.
Yeah, I was literally stalking this online for like a year before I bought it.
For a 1 year, you were stalking that shirt.
hmm
So, what was the given moment?
Um, I think there were only a couple left. You know how it'll say like low stock next to it, and it was on super sale. So I went and I bought it.
Oh, what a great choice. I love that. Oh my gosh.
Thanks.
So super cool.
Well, Laura, thank you so much for, I guess, helping me center all of this. Like it's so hard to tell your own story sometimes, you know. So thank you for asking me the questions that you did. They were awesome. Is there anything you want to leave with? Anything you want to add?
I would like to add you are an extraordinary individual. And I love how you've taken all of your experiences and even your experiences that you have now, and you're moving forward with like optimism, with joy, with forward focus. You're not really focusing in on all the stuff of the past. You've learned from it, you've integrated, you know, taken all those learnings. So now you're moving forward, onward and upward. That's what I love. And I really appreciate you taking time to share your experience with so many people, because I'm sure a lot of people have had similar type of experiences, maybe not quite at your level, but also are in the boat where I'm experiencing these things and I really don't know what to do about it. What can I do? What's the next step for me? So thank you.
Yeah.
And, and Bob said thank you.
Thanks,
He,
Bob.
He said that he thoroughly enjoyed every moment of the conversation, and he said, on behalf of the spirit world, thank you for assisting us.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
No
Awesome.
problem.
Well, you are incredible. Thank you so much. And yeah, if you guys have more questions, and there's just so much more I could add to it. It's so hard to condense it all. But anyway, we'll leave this at this. If you want more, just let us know. And thanks so much for watching.
Thank you.